for the first policy debate, which I think was an excellent debate, especially for our very first one. So thank you, intrepid people who are willing to go first, especially on a topic when we're doing the same thing, and you might gain an advantage from hearing a bunch of other people go. So good for you. I think that you did a great job. So I'm doing this a week after the actual debate. I'm just going to have some very kind of general points about a few things that happened, especially in the later on in the debate. So I'm actually going to start with the second affirmative constructive, because I think we talked a little bit in class about some of the early stuff in the debate. So I'm just going to start right here with a few points. So at one point, Katie, you said that internships should be about those kind of companies that can afford to pay workers. And I think in the cross-ex, I don't remember if it was Anna or Lauren, they said something like, do you really think that the success of a company should be defined by their profitability? And you kind of like try to go in a couple different directions at the same time and answer this question. You're like, well, the money makes the world go round. Like, no, it shouldn't be defined by that. But money makes the world go round, and all this kind of stuff. But I think that this gesture of trying to go both ways means that the negative had really hit on a weakness in what you were presenting in your case. That even though it was just this little argument, they could have made it into something bigger if they wanted to, which was about the kind of value of the educational experience. And I think that one way that you could help yourself out here would by giving a kind of principle of what's and maybe illustrating for us with some narrative, what is ideally the kind of education that someone's getting at an internship. So we have some examples about what isn't educative, right? Working on the factory floor. But what is educative? And I want to hear like a kind of principled defense of what education happens there. Alternatively, the affirmative could say, listen, we think that internships can never really be educative in this ideal way. There really are just kind of workplace experiences, and this is why they should be paid. But that's the kind of principle that should be defended there too. So the affirmative has to make a decision in this debate about what is the nature of the internship, and are they still kind of defending it as something that's educational? It doesn't really matter unless you kind of are using this as part of your argument, which I think most teams will, that unpaid internships promise an education that they don't really deliver. But that can go two ways, right? You can say, the internships never will be educative, so we should just make sure that they're paid like workers. Or internships are, the problem comes if you say like, well, internships should be educative, but they're not really, so we'll pay people, right? So there's this kind of weakness in the case that could be exploited by the negative. So you might want to kind of come up with a principle that says, actually, it's the non-payment of the workers that leads to a worse educational experience. I'm not sure what the reasoning behind that would be, but that would be a strong stance to take, and you might want to do some research to find that out. Alternatively, I think that the negative here should have kind of pressed on this. Whenever you have someone kind of like trying to duke you out and going in two directions in a cross-ex, even if it doesn't seem like a big point, you might want to ask one more question to kind of be like, it sounds like you're contradicting yourself. Do you think that the educative value here comes from the profitability of companies or from something else? Yes or no? Is it the profitability of the companies? And if they say no, okay, thank you very much, then you've defeated the argument, and you can take this into your next speech. So if you have someone kind of like trying to go all around you, this is a signal that you should ask another question on that topic. At least just one more, hopefully, in order to get a kind of nice concession out of them. Okay, Anna, in your speech, I think one of the things to pay attention to is you didn't really have too much of a problem with time, but you did go over time. And I think one of the reasons that you went over time is that you read us a bunch of guidelines at the beginning, and you really don't want to read anything except what is like essential, especially at this point in the debate, in the second negative constructive, what is essential to your argument, right? So if the text of the guidelines aren't essential, that's the kind of thing that you could just refer to, right? You just want to read the essential stuff. I think that you also have a really interesting argument in here, which is about the cost-effective recruiting strategy that internships really are. And I think that this could be like a new way of thinking about internships, right? But you're thinking about it here from a different perspective, which is the perspective of the firm. I think when you kind of make this change, since so much of the debate and so much of the values that people have been putting forward come from the position of the value of an internship to the workers, you should kind of justify this change of position. Be like, okay, internships are valuable. We want internships to be valuable to the interns, but we also want them to be valuable for firms. And there are a whole bunch of reasons why we would want them to be valuable for firms. But you want to defend why, right? Maybe one of the reasons is firms will only offer good internships if they get some value from them, right? Something like that. I don't know. But when you kind of change the stakeholder perspective there, or the position of value, where it's coming from in the social situation, you should kind of alert your audience that you're doing this, and also offer a justification for it. But I think that the idea of a cost-effective recruiting strategy could be like the way of looking at internships from the business side, right? That this would be like, rather than just having kind of like free temp workers, ideally, what we should try to create is a system where interns are kind of a way that businesses look to recruit labor, right, for like bigger positions. And what kind of policies or what kind of structures would lead to that kind of an ideal? It might be a way to take that, be a principle that you take to your stakeholder analysis from the firm's viewpoint on that. Okay, and another thing, one more thing about your speech. You kind of gave some testimonial evidence. I think this is fine, but I think that the testimonial evidence always needs to kind of be connected to something larger, right? And sometimes it's good just as a point of arrangement to put this at the beginning. Be like, okay, let me tell you a story, right? And you give your testimonial and be like, what does this indicate? Indicate something about the fact that there's more flexibility with unpaid internships. And this, in general, kind of shows you the value of unpaid internships. So you don't want to just kind of like tack on a testimonial at the end as a kind of piece of evidence that's free-floating. Because testimonial is powerful as a kind of illustration or a making vivid of something that needs to be general. But if it's by itself, it's like an n=1 sample size, and your audience won't know what to do with it, right? Because it's like, well, that might not be the case for everyone. It's this one person's testimonial, right? So I think that the use of that kind of evidence is important for its value, how you use it. Yeah, okay, one or two more things. So Lauren, in the negative rebuttal, so you have this, you ask the right question. You say, why should government positions not be paid? But I think that there's a huge argument here for the negative side that you don't quite. You asked the right question, but it's like, why specifically government internships shouldn't be paid? Because government workers are paid through tax money. So we're potentially here taking taxpayer money to pay interns, and that just like politicizes this issue in a big way, and potentially means all sorts of things that you can kind of draw inferences about. I'm not going to do it myself because I'm not in the debate anymore, but I think that you should thinking about like how funding works in nonprofits, NGOs, and governments can give you a way to link harms of for the neg of eliminating unpaid internships because of the ways that these things are funded, and the other kind of stakeholders that are brought in because governments are funded by taxes, basically by taxpayers, and what it means that we would be using taxpayer money to pay interns. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds like something that could be a really big part of the argument here, and that's something that's particular about government. Yeah, okay, so that's all I have to say about this debate. I think it was really good. Good job, guys.